Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a list of a dozen masterpieces celebrating the world of children, childhood, youthness, immaturity, whatever you want to call it. This is a topic, or topos, which runs like a thread through Western civilization and Western music, particularly in the Romantic period, when, we tend to think of the Romantic period as a time of sort of decadence and emotional hysteria and all of that stuff. And it was. But there was a corollary to that, which was a fantasy world, a fairy tale world, an effort to seek solace in the past, to rediscover youth and innocence and simplicity. And that was also a very important element that made up 19th century music and 20th century music too. And so the result was a whole slew of wonderful, wonderful works that celebrated the world of the child as seen through the eyes of, obviously, adult composers. So let's just get to it, shall we? I mean, these are wonderful pieces, and I've sort of they're kind of organized in a way to end with the more large-scale views of childhood. You'll see what I'm getting to when we get there. The list is down below anyway. You can just look at it now if you want. But I hope you'll stick with me for a little bit and we can talk about the works themselves. Let's begin with Schumann, Kinderszenen, Scenes from Childhood, one of his most delightful piano suites. It has 13 little movements, including the Happy Farmer. Remember the Happy Farmer? It goes or something like that. It was used in The Wizard of Oz. When Toto escapes from Miss Gulch and he's running home. It was orchestrated for the film, but that's what it was. Yes, it was Schumann. I wonder how many people know Mendelssohn also popped up in there too, one of his scherzos when Toto escapes from the witch. It seems like when Toto is running around, he only does it to early Romantic German classical composers. But Kinderszenen is just a luscious little piece. It's terrific and full of great tunes. And that's what all of these children's things usually are. That is brief little selections of vignettes, little vignettes about toys, about happiness, about not so happiness, but not serious, not so happiness, a little sadness here and there. I mean, they're charming. Next, Bizet, Jeux d'enfants, children's games. This is another suite that was originally written for piano. Then it was sort of orchestrated. It became his Petite Suite. Then it became a slightly longer version with like 7 or 8 movements. It became Jeux d'enfants for orchestra. And then the whole thing was orchestrated eventually by others. But it's similar to the Schumann. I mean, you know what you're getting. You get miniatures, charming, delightful miniatures. Because children are charming, delightful miniatures of us. At least they were until, William Golding wrote Lord of the Flies. Then we realized that children were horrifying little monsters just waiting to hatch. But these pieces don't deal with that aspect of childhood so much. So after Bizet, we've got Elgar, the Wand of Youth. Like many composers, Elgar kept sketchbooks, things that he wrote down, every musical idea that came into his head. And these were things he jotted down when he was a kid, scribbling away. And later he organized them into these delightful orchestral suites. There are 2 of them. And they're very well orchestrated. They're written for sort of large ensemble, but the music has great charm and delicacy and wit. And it's for people who only know Elgar from his big symphonies or The Dream of Gerontius, or some of his imperialist things. I mean, we all know that his greatest work was the March of the Mughal Emperors from the Crown of India suite. But there was also this side to him, the intimate side. And these works illustrate that very, very well with some really, really lovely melodies. And after Elgar, we've got Fauré, Dolly, his Dolly suite. This was written for piano 4 hands. A lot of these pieces were piano 4 hands. You could have an adult and a child, or if there were talented children musicians, budding musicians. They were composed so that they could play that stuff together. And the Dolly suite is, well, it's like the Bizet Jeux d'enfants. It's a charming suite of miniatures. I keep saying that, don't I? Well, that's what these all are. Charming suites of miniatures. What can I tell you? If you like charming suites of miniatures, you're gonna love these. I adore charming suites of miniatures. I think they're irresistible. And Dolly is one of those sort of hidden works. It's absolutely irresistibly charming. It was orchestrated also, so you can get the piano original or you can get an orchestral version, and people just don't know it. I love the last movement, the Spanish steps, the Spanish dance. It's French people doing Spanish music just, disarm criticism. Anyway, that's a lovely work. You may want to give a shot. And next, here's a totally different thing. Janáček, Mládi, Youth. This is a wind sextet. Now, most people write wind quintets for flute, oboe, clarinet, bassoon, and horn. Well, this one also has a bass clarinet, which adds a wonderful sort of sound down all the way in the bottom of the orchestra. It incorporates a little scherzo, a little march, the march of the bluebells or blue caps or blue somethings. There was a children's group there, and it's actually used. The flute switches to a piccolo for that particular number. It's a late work. Janáček wrote it when he was like 72 or something like that. But he was a very youthful composer, and he wanted to, demonstrate that old people could write young music. And it's incredibly young music. It's just fun to listen to and quirky, like everything Janáček wrote. It just has these weird, quirky melodic bits that pop up and disappear. And it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. One of the great works for wind ensemble, and people don't know it. They don't know it as well as they should. So give that a shot. It's refreshing. It really is. And it doesn't have, it's nothing, it's not just a suite of short, little, adorable, charming vignettes. It's a 4-movement major work. So there you go. You could do a little bit more than just, little sniglets. But here's one of my all-time favorite works about children, and it's almost totally unknown. American composer John Alden Carpenter's Adventures in a Perambulator. Perambulator was the early 20th century word for baby carriage, baby carriage. And it's a great piece. It's the universe seen from inside the baby carriage. And you've got policemen and dogs barking, and the baby's just having a wonderful time trotting around outdoors. The scoring is just wonderful. It's luminous. It has a celesta and all these other things running around in it. Just a delightful piece. And it never gets played. It's been recorded a couple times. You won't have trouble finding it. It was on Mercury Living Presence with Howard Hanson and the Eastman Rochester Orchestra. But the other people, there are more modern recordings too. It's a little masterpiece. It really is. And Carpenter was a wonderful composer, by the way. He wrote a lot of really good music. But this is such a delicious little piece, and I cannot understand, for the life of me, why people don't perform it more frequently. Well, because it's American, because, no one cares, all the usual reasons. But wow, what a find. It's a real discovery. You'll be thrilled. Then we have Debussy, Children's Corner. Of course, it was dedicated to, his little chouchou. French is just such a charming language. Even when they call someone a cabbage, it sounds sweet and delicate, doesn't it? That's what a chou is. And, like chou-fleur is cauliflower. Well, anyway. But Children's Corner, I have a great affection for because it was the piece I wanted to learn how to play when I started taking piano lessons. And I got through, the easy parts. The first number, Dr. Gradus ad Parnassum, and Jimbo's Lullaby, and the Serenade of the Doll, and Gollywog's Cakewalk, which I drove my family crazy practicing. Even my dog used to run away screaming when I played that thing. But it's wonderful music, really wonderful. And it was orchestrated by André Caplet, I believe. The piano original is much better. It sounds better. I find the orchestration to be just a little bit too too soft-edged. The music has more angles than the orchestration lets us hear. Anyway, it's a masterpiece, and it's beloved by all. And it was such a joy for me to work on it, even if I never learned the whole thing. And the parts I did learn were not exactly, well, as you can see, I'm doing this instead of playing the piano. Then we have, this is lots of fun, Eric Coates, The Three Bears Phantasy. This is really like a big tone poem. It tells the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Fairy tales and the world of fairy tales are, sort of a major thing among, romantic composers. Some of the fairy tales are for adults. When the fairy tale is for an adult, it's called symbolism, because you're not going to call it something adultish, a fairy tale, even though it was. Strindberg was like a big symbolist person and, poet like that. And all these people, they wrote symbolist stuff. But The Three Bears is a fairy tale, an unabashed, delicious orchestral fairy tale. And wow, and most people don't know it. Coates was famous for writing light music. He wrote the London Suite and the London Again Suite and the Knightsbridge March. Do 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 da 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 yeah da ba ba da ba da ba da ba da ba da ba da ba da. That thing. That's Eric Coates, a wonderful light music composer who wrote larger works that get no attention whatsoever, of course, because he's a light music composer, and therefore he's not worthy. And oh boy, people don't know what they're missing. Goodness gracious. So yes, definitely find your Three Bear Suite. It's on Chandos. It's been recorded a bunch of times, and it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Now I have, four pieces that are sort of a little bit deeper, I would think, in my view. First is Samuel Barber's Knoxville, summer of 1915. It's kind of hard to describe what this is. I could describe very easily what it is, but musically it doesn't fit in any category. It's a shena. It's a scene for soprano and orchestra. On a poem by James Agee, which describes, Knoxville, summer of 1915, the view of an evening on the porch of a house in Knoxville as told by a child, a reminiscence of memories of a child. It's just haunting and delightful. I've never particularly liked it, I have to be honest. People swear by it, but lately I've somewhat come around, because in the context of what this is, which is, visions of childhood and whatnot, it really is an extraordinary achievement. Because, one of the things that you need to do if you write an extended work, and it's about 15 minutes long, continuous music, is it's very, very difficult to be innocent and sweet and disarming and, all of those adjectives without being boring. It's a real challenge. All of these composers surmount that challenge, but Barber does it particularly well, I think, because first of all, it's a prose poem. It's a piece of chunk of words, and he finds just the right sort of conversational flow to convey what's going on. The trolley car passes, and then you get put to bed, and it's so ordinary. But the music isn't. It's extraordinary, and that's what makes it a masterpiece. So I would give that a shot. And then we have two major works by Ravel. And Ravel was, all of his music is fantastical in one way or another. He was music's great escapist, whether it was, the idealized ancient Greece of Daphnis and Chloe, mythological Greece, or the world of children. And there are two Ravel works particularly that absolutely they encapsulate everything that we love and want to remember about childhood, that totally disarming innocence and purity and beauty and just this unsullied, fantastical. It was all BS, of course, and childhood was never like that, but we wish it was. First is his Mother Goose ballet, Now, normally, this comes in a million versions. It was a suite originally for piano, four hands, again, like Dolly and Bizet's thing and this other stuff. It was a salon work, a parlor work. But later Ravel orchestrated it. Then he blew it up into a complete 30-minute long ballet. Now, the stories are Mother Goose. They're, Tom Thumb and Beauty and the Beast and the ending, the Fairy Garden, which is about the most beautiful and intensely beautiful piece of music you'll ever hear in your life. It's to die for. It's incredible. And the ballet is just gorgeous. It's one of those pieces that I collect compulsively. I may do a little chat about that too, because it's just an amazing work. And then after that, his full-length opera, L'Enfant et les sortilèges, the child and the sortilèges. Sortilèges are fairy tale characters, spirits, actually. I mean, it's probably the best way to do it. Spirits or sprites, those sorts of things. And the whole opera, which is about an hour long, it's in a single act in two parts, describes the behavior of a naughty child and what happens when his room with all of its toys and various things come to life. And the animals out in the yard, in the garden that he threw rocks at and did naughty things with. And it's just the most amazing an entree into the world of childhood, both fantastical and also hard realistic, because there's real emotion here. When he one of the animals that he used to, the animals attack him because he was always throwing rocks at them and annoying them and teasing them and doing things. And one of them is wounded, and he fixes its little paw, and the animals all discover that he's really a good child after all. And they surround him, and his mother, is there, and she's pissed at him because he's bad. But then she comes to see that he's reformed. It's just so charming. Oh my goodness, it's wonderful. It's a great work, an absolutely great work. You have to sit and follow it with the text. The story is by Colette, who was also, a big cat lady, number one, so you got to love her. And second of all, she was very good at entering the world of childhood. That was her thing. And it's really a very, very special work, a masterpiece. And Ravel's most extraordinary one. And I mean, it's something special. And last but not least, here's something that may surprise you for the world of children. Mahler, Symphony No. 4. Yes, this is really an amazing piece, because Mahler originally intended the finale. The finale of Mahler's Fourth is a song. It's a song for soprano and orchestra about heaven as seen through the eyes of a child. And it's a world of unabashed innocence, but also grotesquerie, because there's religious imagery. Herod, Jesus, Herod, that Herod. Herod is the butcher in heaven who slaughters the oxen, and the angels are running around singing, and there's all kinds of vegetables, which apparently children liked back then because they would be starving otherwise. And it's really a fabulous setting and a beautiful song. And it ends with a lullaby, which is just so poetic and beautiful, about music, actually. What child's vision of heaven has the ultimate and sweet music, and it's great. But here's the thing: Mahler originally intended the finale of the Fourth Symphony as the finale of the Third, but the Third, as you probably know, is in six movements, an hour and 40 minutes long, with this enormous 25-minute long concluding adagio. And then he was going to have another movement. I mean, like another one, a short little one, because Mahler's vision of this sort of evolutionary progression from mute, immobile nature up through, plants and animals and humans and religion, and then love, and then this ultimate state of childlike innocence. But he figured that wasn't going to work too well, so he instead built his whole Fourth Symphony around this little song about the child's vision of heaven with its little tinkling sleigh bells, It's not sleigh bells, it's the jester's cap, the bells on the jester's cap, fool's bells, he thought. And he began the whole symphony that way. So all of the movements are related in some way to this finale, and the entire work evolves from some great complexity, musical complexity, to increasing simplicity and innocence and childlike purity. It's an extraordinary musical experience, but the destination is the world of the child. It begins in our world, the world of reality. Ugh, Anyway, it's a fantastic work and one of the most thought out, because it's German symphony, the most carefully plotted and thought out visions of childhood, justifying the vision of childhood with which it ends, makes it, of course, a work of flaming genius, just like Ravel's, actually, only in a totally different way. But the idea is the same. The idea is similar, very, very similar. So anyway, there you have it. A dozen works about the world of childhood. And they all began as charming little suites full of tiny little vignettes and gradually became bigger, more involved, more serious, maybe more profound. I don't know. One way or another, they all get the job done. And you can pick and choose as you please. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.